So last set in OP02, I had a pretty big thing for Zephyr, or Z. And I think at that point with black and as well as purple, there was something there, right? His leader effect was pretty okay, but the access to both allowed you to have a pretty good, versatility. Like, be a little diverse with your deck builds and just have some fun with it. And I think there was some underdog nature as far as Z went, especially since he ended up having a good amount of top 16s, a good handful, maybe a few. And I actually even had one on my channel before. Now in OP03, the same exact feeling or similar feeling is with Iceburg. And the thing about it is that the consensus for Iceburg, just because of all of his shortcomings and the loops and things that you have to go through in order to get his effects and to use his archetype and just to make him work. Not to mention the fact that purple is probably the weakest color, probably next to green. I'm not even sure if I can say that, but definitely one of the weakest color, if not the weakest color of OP03. Iceburg just isn't in the best place. However, that's not really going to stop me from trying to make the best Iceburg deck that I can. And if you haven't known, or if you haven't seen him so far, he basically says that he can't attack. He is a regular old 5k leader. I wish he was a 6k. The fact that, due to the fact that he can't attack, I wish he was a 6k. That would be a perfect, or one of the perfect leaders to give 6k, not Whitebeard, where you draw 2 cards per turn for no reason. But his activate main is that you -1 Dawn, and then you get to play a 5 cost or less with the Galley Le Company or La Company tag with it. Now the biggest hindrance of this leader is the fact that he can't attack. I wish there was like some sort of SR. Shout out to Eggman, who we were talking about it, or he was talking about on a stream or something like that, that if he had some sort of SR, secret rare, whatever, to actually enable him to swing. And honestly, if he was able to swing, I don't think that's really that big of a deal. I think purple would be in a pretty good spot if he was actually able to swing. Either way, he can't swing. That's the biggest hindrance, and one of the things that people just can't get it over, I think, as a consensus from what I've seen, what I've been told. However, I think, yes, I do agree with that. I think it is really annoying that you can't swing. You have to build a board, and if your opponent ends up removing that board, especially since you can only have 5 on board anyway, then you're in a tough spot to actually close out a game. And if you're going against something like red or even green, any of those things that actually remove fields pretty easily, maybe even black, it is actually very annoying. And I think at the end of the day, just ask a question like, is this just a bad leader? Is it just for fun, or are we all playing it incorrectly? Which is why, I wanted to showcase my deck list, and as well as the gameplay that goes with it. And when it comes down to the in-archetype stuff, there's actually a good amount of cool things that each of them do something very unique to each other. And of course, since we're in purple and Iceburg is doing its best Kaido impression, we do have the stage card. This says that you can rest this stage, and if your leader is Iceburg, you can set 1 of your Dawns into your Dawn area in rest. Basically, you get to ramp. This is actually pretty cool because since, obviously you get to ramp and you get to be 1 step ahead of your opponent, and it coincides with a lot of the things that you do since they all pretty much -1 Dawn. Now the issue with this is just like with Kaido, it is and can be pretty rough where you don't see the stage and you don't ramp, so you're just negging yourself Dawn. Either you're going to be negging yourself without much Dawn to actually play things, or you wait until you have a higher amount of Dawn and then you have to minus the Dawn and then go from there, which doesn't feel great. But at the end of the day, most of these 5 cost cards, because you want to play the 5 costs, most of them are going to be 5 costs or less, but you want to play the 5 costs in general because they're all pretty much 6Ks. They start with Polly, for instance. He is actually a 5 cost where on play you can pay 2, and then you get to pop something, well, ramp 1 and then pop something 4 or less. And this is actually pretty useful mid to late game, where not only that you get to pop things like Marcos or things like Dofi blockers or the 1 cost blockers for instance, but you basically get to recover the -1 Dawn that you're using for your leader. So if you time it right, usually when you're at 7 Dawn, I believe. You add a Dawn back in after you minus, and then you get to pop something if you have more than 8. Hopefully I did the math right. That wasn't really much math, but whatever. Keep that in mind. Then we have Tilestone, which basically, if you're going against things that are very hungry to pop things, and especially things like decks that play Jet Pistol, obviously this is going to be good because you get to swing with it, and then if they pop it or they swing into it, you get to recover the Dawn that you used to minus. Then we have something like Rob Lucci that you -1 in order to play the 5 costs, but when you swing, you get to -1 Dawn in order to rest something. And that something is usually pretty crucial to your opponent, especially if you're playing against black and you get to rest their Borsalinos, again, Marcos, any kind of blockers, or anything that you want to swing with your other 6Ks. Then we also have Kaku, or however you want to pronounce it, not from the black, but this guy who actually has Banish, which this is like the most like swung at. Like, no matter, whenever I play him out, people do not like Banish. Like, especially going against yellow decks, it is super annoying. So if they don't have a way to actually get rid of it, or if you swing pretty hard like a 9K, it's only 3 Dawn with that -1 Dawn to play him, it's going to be really annoying for them, and they usually want to get rid of it. There's others like the searchable Khalifa from the 1 drop, of course, where you have a nice little 2K in hand, and as well as get to draw you cards. But speaking of, we do have purple support with Queen that actually filters out things that you don't need. You can minus Dawn, especially since you recover that using the stage. It is a nice little 6K blocker, and most of the time it is hard to get rid of, or you can just swing with it at the end of the day. I personally play Magellan in this as well. It really helps out in really awkward matchups, and it just feels good to pay 5 -1 and then play another 5 cost. And if you're going against something that both are like, if you have like Tilestone and as well as Magellan on board, you're only getting stuff out of it when they swing into it or if they remove them. And then finally, Hell's Judgment. This, you know, is going to be your premier way of defending, and you really want to defend since you can't swing and you can't really get people on the crackback unless you have a pretty decent board. That is really the biggest thing about this deck. You have to wait until you have a lot of Dawn and then minus that Dawn while using your stage, and as well as being very efficient with your choices. All right, here's a look at that deck. So basically, you know, this really comes down to making sure that you're playing as many as 2Ks as you can that you can kind of fit in. Hell's Judgment at 3, both of those things are really for defense. And the 2 pretty important tech cards that I didn't talk about already is going to be Uda, where it's again really good just for mitigating damage and as well as swings, but it just plays well to what you're doing, right? And it is pretty much your second leader along with Hell's Judgment, where you can block and then minus that, minus Hell's Judgment, and then minus 2 things on their field and make it really difficult for them. So that way they just swing into the Ud again and they're not swinging to your leader. And then Guild is really good just to keep drawing. That's really what you want. You want to defend against your leader. You want to get as many things from Kokoro and as well as Guild to play out and to make sure that you are, and really what you want to do is pay for something and then play something using your leader. That's what I've been doing, playing 2 to 3 different threats every single turn. So if you do survive the following turn, which you should, not only to be able to defend against these 6Ks, but also your leader, then you can get them back on the crackback, just protecting your characters and as well as just making sure they don't die. And again, just being very cognizant of your Dawn usage and just not try to go too low. In this deck, it's very easy to get low on Dawn. Just be patient. Try to play things past 5 Dawn and then kind of go from there. One thing I didn't mention was Pepe. Lulu. One character I didn't mention was Lulu. He basically gets you a Dawn every time you swing with 1 Dawn underneath. It's basically a 6K. You play with the Iceburg, and if you don't see Gallagher Company, or if you do see both the stage and as well as Lulu, then hey, both is going to be great. So that way you continue to play things throughout the game. All right, so first off, it's going to be against good old boogeyman of the format, Zoro. Ooh, yay. I went ahead and chose to go first. I think that's where you want to be anyway. You get to ramp early, and I mean most of your cards are 5, so you know, on off curve, I guess, or evens, it doesn't feel as so good going second. But I did open Galila Company, the stage, so I wasn't gonna mulligan that one out. Plus I have a few targets that I want to play anyway, and I think the biggest thing here is that I do play the stage and I go ahead and play Lulu, so opening up pretty well here helps a lot against this matchup, and really just any of them. I think that's really the biggest thing, is that you have to pretty much stave off most of the attacks and don't go too low of a life total. With Zoro, it's kind of hard to avoid that, because he's just going to keep playing these 1-drops. He's going to keep playing, or he's just going to keep swinging. Sometimes they play Makino. It's just going to be very, very difficult to mitigate that damage, and I mean sometimes you just got to do your best. So off the bat already swings with these 5Ks. The annoying thing is that you can't really swing back at the end of the day, but you can wait until you have 5 Dawn, play out the Magellan, use your stage to use the effect, and then play out the Rob Lucci. So that way, if he doesn't swing into him, you can just use Rob Lucci and just keep swinging into his bodies until you're in a good spot to start swinging his life. That's pretty much what I did here. I only have 3 cards in hand. Another downside of this leader, so many drawbacks, but he is very much fun, especially since most of the time the goal is to have your opponent look at a bunch of 6Ks and 5 costs on board. So he's doing the thing. He's doing the one under the leader and swinging with low costs. It's very fun. Most of the 6Ks I end up countering out. Most of the 5Ks I don't, and that's usually because if I have it, then it's going to be easier to basically avoid how do I put it? It feels easier to waste my 2Ks than it is my 1Ks, since most of my 1Ks are the things I want to play. So I'm just swinging into his board. I'm gonna go ahead and use the leader effect. I used Polly's effect since I already knew that I was gonna go up to 8 after I end up using his effect. So you basically ramp 1, you go to 8, and then you get to pop something. So that's exactly what I did. I have a pretty big board into his non-existent board, and him swinging into one of my characters basically says that he doesn't really have too much in hand, which is really good for me. I have to decide here what I want to do, basically pitching my 2 cards or getting rid of one of the bodies. And I think having Rob Lucci and as well as now Guild on the board is going to be more important. I don't know if he plays Gum Gum, which doesn't really do too much here. He does have 2 open, so that's 1 for guard point. And then I'm just deciding what I want to do here. I think it's probably fine for me just to swing into his face now. It's a good old 7. He's not gonna counter out of this for sure. So we're in a pretty good place. He doesn't have a board. I have 2 up for hopefully a Hell's Judgment in the future, which I only have 1 card in hand. That is the biggest downside in this situation. But you have to make do with what you got. Plus we got the Guild out. So next turn I'll be able to start drawing some cards. And if I find a queen, then that's even better. That's going to be a +1, and I'll get rid of whatever I don't need in my hand. And we're at a pretty healthy Dawn total too. That's another thing. It's just gotta be cognizant about that. He plays out the Whitebeard, which is pretty scary because now I pretty much have to draw into a queen in order to survive. And I have to decide what my Dawn usage is looking like here. I drew into a queen, so thankfully I had to swing with Magellan because I didn't have any rested Dawn or used Dawn to use for the Guild effect. So you just have to be aware of that. I have to use the 5 here because I can't swing 6s into his face. So I have to decide what I want to pitch out, which I did do that for old boy instead. So the reason why I did this is because he can swing into my my characters, and the only hope that I have here is that it doesn't either run Jet Pistol or draw it. He doesn't have Otama and then draw it to a Fire Fist, which is more likely. You know, there's a few things that are pretty annoying against red and just Zoro. Him using the Otama here means he's most likely gonna Jet Pistol or Fire Fist. So he did Fire Fist, so that's pretty bad actually. So a lot of Zoro players end up using Fiery Doll, so he could just use Fiery Doll, and if I don't have enough to get out of it, then I just lose. If I do, then I win. So that's, I drew into a poly. All right. So you just put 5 under, and then doing the math, I have 2, 4, 6 in hand, so I get to go to 11, and just was able to be just enough lucky where he disconnects and doesn't say anything. At least he does say a GG. Okay, I'll give it to W here. But that's pretty much what you got to do. I think there's a couple things here. One, I drew pretty well. I don't think he drew good enough. I also don't think that the Edward Newgate was his play. I think him putting out some more threats, so that way he can kind of defend using his event cards, depending on what his hand was, and surviving until next turn, and then just swing, because I had a low hand total anyway. So I only had a few cards in hand and a queen. So if he had like 4 or 5 attacks using his 1-drops for the following turn, then I would have lost that for sure. All right, up next is Black Yellow Mom. I keep running to these guys. I mean, I see the likeliness. You know, there's a lot of cool black cards out in OP03, and then just yellow as it is. It's just good. The leader effect still, it's like whatever, but again, it is interesting that I keep running into them. They chose to go first. I have 2 Kokoros, so I said sure, I'll just keep this hand, and I drew into a Gala Company. So all it really comes down to now is just sculpting the hand to the stuff that I want to play. So I chose to get the Khalifa, and that's gonna be just another 2k in hand. I have 2, 4, 6, 8 now, and he's just gonna give me another card, which is good. Gala Company here, and then we're gonna play the Lulu. So pretty standard, just like the last game. And then the following turn, I most likely will be playing Queen, hopefully draw into something better. If I had to do it again, I probably would use Kokoro to find something like a 5 or less that I can play. But I do have 2 Lulus, so there's always that. I've yet to see, oh yeah, I forgot he Thunderbolted, so that's pretty annoying. So I pitched out the extra stage. I'm just deciding what I want to play. Rob Lucci is going to be the most useful, and it's just going to invalidate their brulees, so that's good. So Queen is on board. He has the Thunderbolts again, which is probably fine for them because they want to get to a lower life total anyway. But I went ahead and just I gave him life for that 7-drop. So I'm going to swing 7 here after playing the guild, which is going to be pretty clutch. That's very annoying that he had another one, but we're going to use the Kokoros. He's actually useful. And we're going to replace him with the Khalifa? 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 I'm just going to keep it saying it wrong on purpose. I want to counter out of this because I think I want to keep the Rob Lucci, you know, for any of the 4 drops he plays, and as well as his Brule. So 4-drop comes out, and Borsalino is gonna be the best target for that boy. That's gonna be pretty good. His hand's running low. I'm trying to decide what I want to use, and also decide what I'm going to be using or playing this turn. And the way I saw it here is that I can pop the Brule using Poly. So I have to basically use the Iceburg effect for the Dawn that I just used, which am I doing this right? I didn't do this right. Okay, so if I had to do it again, I'd probably use the Dawn. Yeah, I would use the Dawn first for the one that I use for Khalifa. And then also make sure that I am resting the Borsellino before swinging, and then going from there. So now I have two blockers. Uda, and as well as Queen, is going to put some work in. He has a rush here, so that's kind of annoying, but we do have Hell's Judgment. And I think I'm going to use Uda so I can rest the Borsellino and then counter out so I can keep her. I think that one shook him a little bit. And while we have a small hand, we can take care of his board pretty well with all of these swings. And we have Hell's Judgment open along with Queen. So if he does swing with this, we can Hell's Judgment him, and as well as Lin. I could do the leader as well, but I think what the other most important part is that I can just block this 8-cost swing. So if he had some way to play like a 2-cost blocker or something like that, I can keep the Rob Lucci up to go for game, which is exactly what I want to do. And last ditch effort is him swinging. So I drew into a Hell's Judgment, which isn't amazing, but I think what we're going to do is first go 7 of face. I think 8 is probably better here. No, I think we go Rob Lucci, not Guild. Yeah, we go 9 with Rob Lucci. Okay, oh right, I used the Gala Company. And then 9 with Rob Lucci again. There you go, cool. So he could have gotten it out of this one, but I still had the Uda swing. And he didn't draw into anything that would recover life. That's a big thing against yellow. He could have got Impact Wave. You know, these are all like RNG factors. But because of the board that he had, it was super important that I go for the win and not go for the board. I could have, because he had a lower hand size, and I had the Dawn to use for. Plus I had a Hell's Judgment. I drew into another 1k, and I had 3 life, so I was sitting pretty well, to be honest. So plus I had Uda's effect to mitigate two different attacks. So I think I was fine just to go a little safe there, but I think it just added up to be a-okay. All right, last game is going to be Ace, another red leader. I don't even know what a good matchup would be to showcase this deck, but I mean, red's super prominent, so like, you know, you hop onto OP TCG Sam, you just end up playing against a lot of red anyway, so that's how I see it. I think I went to go, oh yeah, I chose to go first. My hand's a little awkward for it, but I do have a Kokoro and as well as a Lulu, so I think I'm just gonna keep this one so I can look at the top 5, hopefully find a stage. If I don't, then I'll just use Lulu's effect on the following turn. I did actually find a stage. I don't even remember this match, so I did find a stage, so that's cool. So again, on curve, looking good. You know, when you're not on curve, or if you don't get enough things on board, that's where Iceburg really sort of falls short. Ace is interesting because in general he is going to just remove stuff off your field. So this Uda is not safe. You know, a lot of your 5Ks aren't safe. Some of the 6Ks through, you know, Otama, Fire Fist, or Jet Pistol, whatever it may be. You know, those are all things. Chad is so great. Thank you for that. It's exactly what I wanted. To appreciate that. Magellan is so good against red. It's so funny. It doesn't seem that way, but it is definitely really good against red. Just because they, you know, the one-off Marco or through one-off, really anything. Like it just really depends. But since he went second, he is still at 5. You can just pop my Kokoro and I have to deal with this Marco. All right, so he went ahead and used Whitebeard Pirates to draw an Emerald Newgate. That looks like the SR for it. Good old 9 drop. It's gonna be annoying later on. Drew into Queens, that's cool. Just deciding how I want to approach this. I think I am, you know, I'm a little apprehensive with his Gum, but I think he just went 6 here. Or 7, sorry. And another 6 and another 6 for banish. And then we're gonna go ahead and replace good old Kokoro. He did his job with a good old 5 cost. And this one is actually super scary. I gotta let you know. He went hard on this one. I don't think he should have. I think he just should have not done that. But maybe he knows that like Iceburg is just susceptible to just damage in general, right? So maybe he just like wants me at a lower life total, and if I don't have enough blockers or things to defend against it later, then it's going to be annoying. And he jet pistols my Kaiku, which is, that hurts. That one hurts. So we're gonna play the queen. At least we have room. We're gonna play the Uta. That makes more sense actually. It's better. I was gonna say more better, but Uta is more better. To rest our Marco, and if he plays the new gate, then I can just block and then rest the Marco. Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen here. And I don't think he has enough attacks or enough defense to defend against my attacks. He might be a 7k leader, but I'm already 6k. It's only one Don. I can poke and prod as much as I want. Yeah, and I'm gonna keep the Uta because I need another attacker. I think that's where people really are not using their heads. They're really not using their heads for these type of situations. So we're gonna get rid of the Marco for a couple of reasons. One, it's easier to swing into him with one Don and make him basically pitch these cards out of hand. So when I do swing out, which I got rid of a Marco, I'm happy about that. You can't just Otama Marco my my Uta anymore. The one that's rested. Oh wait, no, I was gonna say yeah. If I play it now, I have to do the one that's rested. There you go. Okay, I don't know why I'm talking to myself in the past like I could do something. So we're gonna keep bullying the Marco, and you gotta keep bullying it. Yep, he has to pitch the last card out of hand, or he just doesn't. It's not a thing anymore. There you go. All right, so I have 2 blockers. He has no hand. He just got double attack, so that's annoying. But that's kind of irrelevant, right? Because when you think about it, it's like whatever. You can swing double attack, sure, 9k, and then I just block the new gate because you have no way to get rid of my queen. I actually could have countered out of that too, I think, right? 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I could have. So even if I didn't, I just wouldn't be able to get away from this second swing. Now it's just all about math. And I was like, wait, I don't have any Dawn 2 minus. So I was gonna draw just to make sure. Yep. So we swing 7, and then we just put everything on the Magellan, and then we just take game. So hopefully that gives you a little idea of how to play Iceburg. It's not the best deck out there, but it is definitely my favorite deck out of OP03. And it's super fun just to fill up the board, swing a bunch of times, and then just watch your opponent try to deal with your board. And don't let Zoro and all these other pretty annoying, like frankly very annoying decks get you down. Try something different today. Try Iceburg. That's not a slogan. Thanks for watching. If you want to see some live gameplay, definitely follow me on Twitch in the description below, and subscribe if you're new. If you have any suggestions of what decks that you want to see later, I'm even thinking about doing Croc after I do Dofi. Let me know in the comments. See you next one.